It's amazing too.
Okay, folks. We welcome all of our visitors today and appreciate your participation. If you need to have personal conversations, please step outside. Also, if you have cell phones, we would ask that you put them on silent during today's meeting. Clerk of the board, please call roll.
Mr. Rowland? Present. Mr. Wilcox?
Here.
Mr. Ross?
Here. With the quorum present, I call to order this meeting of the Elbert County Board of County Commissioners. The meeting is 12th day of October 2016 at 9:03 a.m. Invitation is by Pastor Jim Kimball of our church. And there we are. And we'll ask the sheriff to lead us in the place today.
Let's pray. God in heaven, we have come today because the grass withers, the flowers fade, but your word stands forever because it is connected to you. You're the eternal one that takes care of all of our cares, the one who gives wisdom to our leaders. You're the one who puts them up and takes them down. So today, God, we live our lives as subjects of yours, willing to do whatever you bid us to do. And God, we pray that we would be men and women who lift up the name of Jesus, who live truly for you, and who at the end of our days will be able to say that we lived and cared for people and loved you most of all. For that to take place, we need your help in doing that. These men and women that are here today need your guidance, each one. Protect the mouths that would say things that would hurt or destroy. And God, may each person here be a person of peace. And they would be men and women willing to put their hearts and their agendas aside to listen to you today, what you have for our county. God, we're so grateful to you that you have, in your kindness, placed us in this great county, in this great state. And we pray, God, that we'd be men and women that would help each other out and walk with you together. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Commissioners, we have before us an agenda. We have a motion to approve the agenda.
I approve the agenda. I move to approve the agenda as it's written.
Second.
Any comments? Changes? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Motion passed. We have a consent agenda for 4 items before you. Oh, I'm sorry. Does anyone have any correspondence? May I have a motion for the consent agenda, please?
I move that we accept the consent agenda to that as written.
Second.
All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Motion passes. Any awards and recognition today? We move to elected officials, department head, staff reports. This is a time when any county elected official, department head, or employee may use the podium to report on any matter of interest to the citizens and BOCC. This is an open format and does not require prior approval or disclosure of the subject matter to be discussed, and therefore cannot be added to the agenda at this time. But It may be added later, at a later time for follow-up or consideration by the board. Any of those? Okay, and then Ms. Raymond, if you don't mind, just let us know about the fires that occurred over the last 2 days. Sure. Mr. Schroeder?
Morning, Commissioners. Bill Schroeder, Elbert County Clerk and Recorder. I am, after discussion with some of the other elected officials, I'm going to address some of the issues that were brought up last meeting on the possibility of a Citizens Advisory Committee. Please don't take this as a statement for or against, just some things that we need to correct as far as some statements that were made. I'm just going to go through the first couple pages here that have bullet points with them. The first one says we have had a Citizens Finance Committee in the past. Fact, and from my understanding that was quite some time ago. Second bullet point says the county has had a balanced budget with surplus funds. That is incorrect. We currently do have a balanced budget. We do have surplus funds, and with the goal of setting aside those surplus funds to have 3 months in savings, and that is something the budget team has worked hard at doing. It's made progress every year since we've had a county manager. Bullet point 3, in recent past, administration and finance staff was much smaller. From my inquiries, what I found out is actually the administration and finance staff has been larger in the past. As recently as 2010, there were 6 full-time employees in administration and finance. We currently have 4. Bullet point 4 states county manager position was established in 2013. That's a fact. Bullet point 5, the finance director position has been staffed sporadically. That is correct, but that's an intentional decision. The budget team, as we talked about, has different priorities that we feel are higher than the finance position, such as HR, public information officer, road and bridge supervisor. So that is true, but it's done intentionally. The next bullet point says department accounting systems are not fully integrated. I can only assume that what was intended here was between the treasurer's office and the finance department. That's not true either. We've had many discussions in these meetings of putting the software together to make that work. That is uploaded and reconciled monthly. And the last bullet point on the first page says citizens and their input have not been fully or truly have been appreciated, and that is an opinion on a page that purports to put fact forward. The second page talks about financial impression. The first bullet point says citizens are wanting transparency and teamwork, and we would agree. 90% of the employees in this county are tax-paying citizens, and so having transparency is just as important to us as it is anywhere else. And the teamwork side of it, for those of you that were at the budget meeting a couple of weeks ago, I think you saw teamwork in action. The current budget team works well together with nearly 100% participation in the entire process over the past 3 years. Bullet point 2 says commissioners, county department managers have been unwilling to share financial information. Once again, I believe that would be an opinion, something I disagree. Anytime that I've had anybody have any questions, certainly have been able to get those financial questions answered. Bullet point 3 says the county is continually behind in the budget process. This also is not true. We met every targeted date this year and last year that we had in place as far as the budget process. We also have started to meet the audit deadlines since we've had the county manager in place. Bullet point 4 says our county manager is also our finance and budget manager. Fact. And as you can see with us meeting our deadlines, I think it's working very well. Bullet point 5 and 6 kind of go together. It says citizens are unclear of the duties of the admin staff, and also that there's no understanding of the role of treasurer with regards to our county finances. My response to that would be that there needs to be some discussion taking place. As I've gone through and asked the different departments and the different people that were mentioned within this paper, it was interesting that Ms. Rhodes did not speak with any of those people. So where she came up with her information, I am unaware of where that would come from, but she did not talk to the people who have their hands-on in these situations. Rick Pettit, our treasurer, is probably the most approachable person we have in the county, and there's no reason that someone couldn't go to Rick and ask him what the duties of a treasurer are. The last statement on here says not all department bank accounts are included with the GL, and assuming what is referred to there is one of the accounts with the sheriff's office, and so I spoke with Teresa Crown and the administrative staff over there for quite some time yesterday. And this is another thing, if we actually sit down and talk and discuss, we find out that there are some logical reasons why these things take place. One of the reasons that the sheriff's office has an account when someone comes in to be processed and they have some dollars on them, those dollars, of course, are shredded. They can't take them on to jail, and they're put into safekeeping. When that person is bailed out, whether it be in the evening or over the weekend, we can't pull the treasurer in here to write a check to get those funds back to that person. So they have a system in place to issue a debit card immediately to that person so they can leave there with the money that they came in with. This is reconciled, treasurer's office involved, nothing crazy going on here. It's just a simple matter of making things work. There's also another account over there that the sheriff's office decided for the convenience of the citizens to be able to pay traffic fines via credit card. And because of the sheer volume of that, it is easier for the administrative staff over there to balance that account and then reconcile the account with the treasurer's office. And so I think if we take the time when we're getting ready to ask questions to talk to the actual people who are involved with it, we'll find that there are answers to the questions. In my discussions with the treasurer, the assessor, and the sheriff and myself, we would like to request that if this is going to become an ongoing topic where a person is granted a special 10-minute presentation time, that there be a policy in place so that there can be a time to look at their presentation to make sure that everything that's going to be presented is factual, because we all know once something that goes out that has been misleading intentionally or otherwise, it makes it hard to pull it back. And so that is our request, that a policy be developed if this is going to continue, so that we can kind of make sure what's being said, that it is true and actual factual. Thank you.
I'll make a real quick announcement before Ed goes. Just FYI, we are having a study session today at 11 o'clock. I assume it's right here as well? Correct. Okay. A little bit of a snafu. Normally we put study sessions on the normal agenda and post that. This is a kind of courtesy letting you know we're doing that. But in this case, we did a separate posting yesterday before 11 o'clock. So there's 24-hour posting requirement has been met. And that meeting, because we forgot to put it on the agenda, and by the time we caught it was 9:15, so technicalities. But today we're going to be having, in just a moment, a presentation by Rhett Everett of the USGS on the latest data that has come out of our 2-year water well monitoring study, so that some of us lay people can understand what it means. And he's going to do that for us. And then at 11 o'clock, members of the Water Advisory Committee, including Rick Morgan and I think Bob Ware at least, I'm not sure about the rest, are going to talk about some issues that they want to discuss and make the board and the public aware of as it relates to our ongoing water issues, water studies, well monitoring, etc., and CWCB opportunities to continue some of those programs. So that's happening at 11 o'clock. I just want to make sure everybody knows.
Okay, before I start, does the board want to consider moving into the other room? We have visitors in the back standing.
I assume around the chair.
Are you folks comfortable back there? You okay? It's done? All right.
If your feet start to go down, holler, we'll move.
Okay, so over the past couple of days, we've had 4 fires.
Sure.
One, the largest one started Monday. It was started by human working in the field. It burned about 300 acres just west of the Chaparral subdivision. There were multiple agencies involved in containing that fire and putting it out. Yesterday we had 3 fires, maybe 4. I'm not sure if we ever confirmed the last one, but we had 3 fires. One was started early in the morning from a baling process, baling hay, and equipment failure. And that one was contained pretty quick by 2 fire agencies, Sunlight and Weimer. Then yesterday afternoon, everybody might have noticed a small storm that passed through the county with sporadic lightning. It started a fire just southeast of Ben Lomond Gun Club. It would be the first one, and it burned about 100 acres in that one before it was contained. At the same time, it went east, and it was approximately 15 miles east, started another fire, lightning strike at County Road 161 and 66, and then another one at 169 and 66. So all agencies and staff worked well into the night, containing the fires, mopping up fire agencies, 37 most of the night, and everything's under control and everybody's safe.
Well, I want to convey my thanks and appreciation for the quick response. By the time I got to the one over by Chaparral, Road and Bridge, fire agencies were already on scene, and graders cut the fire lines, and it went very well there. I was able to watch that. Pass along my appreciation to everybody involved.
Thank you. And, I think we're in a unique position with our fire agencies, our districts within the county. They all have a very good working relationship, communication path, and I don't know if you noticed yesterday, along 86, there were multiple agencies responding to the fires 25 miles east of Kiowa. And thanks to all the fire agencies that were involved, law enforcement that were involved in making sure that took place, and it was a success. We had no loss for life.
Yeah.
Sheriff, we're still in what phase of our fire ban?
It's a stage 3.
Stage 3. And that means?
That it's the most restrictive stage we have.
A little moisture last night, but not a lot.
Probably not enough to do a whole lot.
Okay. Any other reports from staff or officers?
I just wanted to say, Ed, I gotta tell you thanks. I came from a background where we're used to fighting structure fires and stuff like that, so that's kind of where I came from. So I come out here and I see all these people. They have to be skilled in so many different areas. The road and bridge folks, I mean, how much they know about incident command, how much they know about all this stuff, and they become integral in attacking fires out here, especially wildland fires. So that degree of knowledge I've never seen, so really, it's commendable. So,
Well, thank you. I have to pass that on to Sheriff Pete and some of the fire chiefs who have been involved. It was a process to get to the point that we're at today. When we started this process, the fire that took place on Monday would be several thousand acres before it was contained. And that was 6 years ago. So in the incident command process and training and building those relationships with the different agencies, we're now able to control a lot of that. And I'm not going to tell you that we're not going to have a big fire, but we had one a month ago east of Backett, and it was, I don't remember, 1,200 acres by the time it was done.
Yeah, 12 to 15.
And it was, it was 3 lightning strikes, 3 separate fires all at once, and it was the cooperation of multiple agencies and the relationships that these folks have developed over the past few years that kept that fire to a minimum. So hats off to all of those guys.
well, it sure shows.
Okay, thank you. So, we'll move on to public comment. Public comment is a time when any citizen may bring forth items of interest or concern. During this time, each individual will have 3 minutes to present views on county matters. In the interest of time, please have your comments prepared for presentation, as each person will be allowed 1 opportunity to approach the podium. Please keep your comments to a 3-minute maximum. No formal action will be taken on these items during this time due to open meeting provisions. However, the items may be placed on a future posted agenda if action is required. If you have comments on a regular agenda item, please hold your comments until that item is up for consideration. The public comment portion of the BOCC meeting is not to be used for political or campaign purposes. Comments and questions should be limited to matters of current county affairs and business. When you approach the podium, please identify yourself and spell your last name and give your address. Yes, sir. Mr. Brown.
How do you want to
We don't have a podium, but we can act
Oh,
like
that'll
that.
work right there. Put in there, podium.
Rick Brown, 26193 Shore Forest Trail, Kiowa. I've just been listening to the clerks. I guess it's a rebuttal to the presentation Marlene made at the last meeting. I was here, I saw that rebuttal. I don't understand why, when the clerk is supposedly busy with elections, he has time to deal with these issues. But the one point a couple of points I'd like to that just occurred to me as I was listening to this. Number one, what Marlene was asking for was the consideration of the appointment of a Citizens Finance Committee. I have no idea about the accuracy of the factual claims that were made today. Ms. Gove isn't here to respond. I don't know if she was told in advance this would be occurring. But the point is, the point I would like to draw to your attention is that there was no argument made against the appointment of such a committee. All right? And this has nothing to do with the merits of what she was requesting. The other matter I'd like to address is the request that you adopt a policy requiring there be some sort of submission to the county manager or other county officials other than the BOCC of presentations that are being made that are go over the 3-minute period, for which you're given permission to go over the 3-minute period. I mean, Marlene's presentation was what, maybe 10 minutes. It wasn't any more time-consuming or burdensome than what we just heard from Mr. Schroeder. I think that to require people to do that may prove intimidating to people who might want to talk to you. I don't think there should be any kind of pre-screening requirement. I do think that if there's going to be a rebuttal to that at some subsequent meeting, the person who's made the presentation ought to be given the courtesy of prior notice so they can attend and, if they wish, stand up and respond. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Jay North, N-O-R-T-H, and it's 8115 Sun Country Drive. So I'm here to give a proposal. I know you'll probably want to address it in the next few months, but to reduce costs for the county. There's actually 2 proposals. One of them is to take neighborhood roads and return them back to the HOAs or have the HOAs take care of them. I know it's a stretch in a lot of people's minds on how that would actually work, but that would actually reduce the cost of the counties and reduce the cost of maintaining those roads for those neighborhoods. They can pay for their own roads, pay for their own ways of taking care of those. The other one would be for the building department. Rather than paying employees to go out and inspect buildings, you could just require an engineer. Let an engineering company take care of that for you. That way you'd be able to reduce the building department as well. So those are my 2 ideas just to help reduce costs. So.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, get one more.
Paula?
I could. Good morning. Paula Wilderman, 47073 Silver First Street, Parker, Colorado, 80138, the northwest corner of the county. I'd like to request an update on the progress of making the transcript for the November 18, 2015 BOCC meeting available on the website. I have not been able to find it, and if someone could tell me if I'm just missing it, I can just forget the rest of this statement. Is it there yet?
The audio was posted.
Okay.
Yeah, the audio is on the web, right?
Okay. As referenced, the last time that I can recall this topic was discussed was June 15, 2016. It's right over there. The agenda item was letter G under new business and was entitled Transcription of the Recording of November 18, 2015 meeting. As I recall, it was decided that the recording would be made available on the website and that bids would be obtained to get a professional transcription of the meeting. After the meeting, I told then Commissioner Dorr that I would personally be happy to pay for the service so that this matter could finally be put to rest. That was nearly 4 months ago, and the November 18th meeting was nearly 1 year ago. Unfortunately, the minutes for the meeting on June 15th have not yet been posted either, so I could not confirm these dates. That brings me to my next point. I think it's pretty clear that there's an increasing desire and request for transparency. And yet it seems that this request continues to fall upon deaf ears. If you look on the county website, there have been 24 agendas for BOCC meetings in 2016. 4 of the links are broken. The meeting minutes for only 10 of those 24 meetings have been posted. There have been no minutes posted since July 20th. Much has happened since July 20th, including the resignation of a commissioner. In addition, the website indicates that District 2 position, Commissioner Wilcox's position, is still vacant, and he took that position at the end of August. Members of the community, including myself, have asked for transparency. It is probably more accurate to say that they have begged and pleaded. I believe that many elected officials have forgotten that taxpayers expect and deserve something in return for their taxpayer money. You aren't doing us a favor by making information available. I believe it's your job, I believe it's your responsibility, and I believe it's your obligation. Please stop taking our money and working in silence. This situation started off as sad, and it has now moved to simply unbelievable and disrespectful. I love this county, and there are too many positive things to say about this county in 3 minutes. I come from academia and business. There, we love to share our work and our progress with others. It was our opportunity to prove our value. I wish that that philosophy could be instilled in our elected officials. As commissioners and elected officials, you freely chose to compete for your position. You most likely spent your own time and your own money. I would hope that it would be a position in which you welcome the opportunity to tell people that elected you what you have accomplished. I would also extend that to county department heads. Providing quarterly updates at BOCC meetings would go a long way in keeping the county informed. I apologize for the negative tone in this statement, but I simply don't understand how many legitimate requests need to be made before action is taken by the people who serve this county. Thank you.
Mr. Wall?
Bill Duvall, 40753, County Road 21, Elizabeth, Colorado. I will keep this brief, but I would like to put together what Mr. Brown said as well as what Ms. Wilderman just said. Our county clerk had time to go around, interview people, and ask them about this presentation that Marlene Groves made last time. He had time to put together a presentation for today, yet it is his statutory job to put the minutes of the meetings out to the public. We don't even have minutes from last November up yet. We've only got 10 out of 24 sets of minutes up for this year, and yet he has time to go out and tear apart a presentation that a citizen made. Why doesn't he spend his time getting the minutes up on the website? Thank you.
Any other public comment? Okay, seeing none, under old business, because this has been an ongoing process to establish a well monitoring network in the county to assess the aquifer levels in the selected wells. We have the pleasure of having from United States Geological Service, that effort, who's been in charge of this project, to report back to the board. Okay.
Why don't you come up here, if you mind? Always have to resist the temptation to call you Jeff Butler. I've never asked, is that who you're named after? Is, Clark Gable? What?
No, my parents just like the name, so.
Oh, great.
So, I didn't expect this large of an audience. I do apologize. I only brought a couple of copies.
And the data is on the internet.
All of the USGS data that has been collected is available online. That is not.
I know you issued a report. I know I forwarded it to the environmental witness and posted it on Facebook. So it is available in electronic.
The report that was given to you is actually for the CWCB. It's your requirement to give to them every 6 months or so for the grant. So that was basically the overall purpose of the report. If it's not available online, Bob Ware said he could actually publish it on the WAC. Or he could somehow publish it if,
And I have it too,
okay.
electronic. And I mailed it out to the folks who are on my constituent mailing list, so but it's available, just so you don't have money in your hand.
So, those are actually just copies of the figures for reference. But, I mean, in short, we started the program last February 15th, so we're about halfway through the initial program. But, you know, overall, what we're seeing, water levels in the county kind of go up during the spring, and actually last year because of all the rain, even into the summer. Late summer, the water level started to decline. At the end of the agricultural season, when it started getting cold again, water levels came back up. We see that everywhere in the Denver Basin. It's a lot more pronounced over in Douglas County, where there's a lot more water usage. A little bit less out here, but we still see that kind of annual cycle. So the biggest comparison for water levels is actually year to year. And if you compare January or February with August, there's obviously going to be this giant decline at the late of the summer. But then if you compare the other way, it's going back up. So we try to compare year to year to year. February to February, even April water level to April water level is probably the best. It's usually one of the highest water levels throughout the year. So it kind of gives us a good idea of what's going on long term from year to year. We can still somewhat throughout the year compare other months like April or August or July from one year to the next. However, depending on where the shift is in that cycle, sometimes the actual statistics in the map can look a little odd. If it's in early spring, water levels start to drop fast. They drop early compared to 1 year prior where it was a wet year and the water levels are high. You end up with an artificial decline of several feet. Next year, it'll probably reverse itself and be several feet up the other way. Some of the statistics that I did include were that February to February water level. And let's see, that would be table, I believe table 2. Yeah, and so on average in the Upper Dawson, there's 11 wells overall year to year. There's about a decline of about half a foot from one year to the next. That would be from April of 15 to April of 16. Lower Dawson, 11 wells again, a decline of about 2 feet. I'm sorry, that's a rise of about 2 feet. I'm sorry, go on. Here, yeah, make sure I get that right. There are 2 wells that actually showed a relatively large increase from one year to the next. I try to note when I'm taking water level measurements, if I notice that the water level is slowly recovering, that'll kind of tell me that the well's been pumped. It's a possibility that last February the water level was artificially low because of recent pumping or even nearby pumping. So statistically, if that was an actual rise because of the pumping, next year it'll be back the other direction.
And when you say pumping, you're talking about the individual well itself. People are doing their laundry, their showers, or water their laundry.
Right, pumping out of the individual well.
Not in the area in general, but in that well.
In some neighborhoods, the wells are close enough together and the aquifer is actually conductive enough that yeah, I'm sitting there, I can actually see small changes, several inches in the well, and the water level in the well, simply because somebody else is using water nearby.
So that's hard.
Right, and then a couple of the wells that we're actually monitoring are close enough to the city and the municipal wells, that those large wells can kick on and actually cause a several inch drop in given times. So, but
Yeah, Red, in the particular instance of these 6 to 7 foot increases,
right.
and that I've noticed the Lower Dawson one is 16 is just east of and north of Albert.
Okay.
So that in fact could have been influenced by their municipal well or perhaps even irrigation, because there's a lot, the lion's share of our irrigation occurs along Kyle Creek.
Possibly.
Is that a possibility?
Right. One of the other things to consider in a few of these wells, without actually analyzing each individual water level, Last year was a very wet year. You know, we had rain almost every other day through, June, and then still quite a few rain events in July and August. So water levels didn't start dropping until later, and then they came back relatively quickly. So the slight rise in water level could be an effect of recent recharge from all of that rain as well. So,
Let me ask you a question that's been kind of topic of water cooler discussions. When you talk about recharge, this was my understanding that the main recharge from this basin comes from the Palmer Divide area, eastward. And I've also heard the theory of the premise that, the water on the surface, you dump a gallon of water on the surface and what doesn't evaporate eventually gets to the aquifer, it takes, 50 years. Is that all true? I mean, where does this variation come? How could a wet year, per se, affect our aquifer up or down? Where does that enter the aquifer, and how big is it?
Anywhere where an aquifer outcrops to the surface is a potential source of recharge to the ground. So if rain falls on the area where the Denver aquifer is exposed at the surface, that water can leak down and end up in the Denver aquifer. Anywhere where there is a stream that flows, that cuts across any of those aquifers, is a potential source for recharge into that aquifer. And yes, if you pour a bucket on the ground, most of it's probably going to evaporate or be used as evapotranspiration, but there will be a small percentage of that water as a bucket that ends up into the ground. Streams, however, they're continually wet, so if you were to keep dumping a bucket over and over and over
It's
again,
ongoing.
it's ongoing. So a stream is a lot more likely source for recharge than small amounts of rain here or there in any one given
But if
location.
our recharge was in Palmer Divide down by Monument, per se, it's gonna take a while for that to get to Kiowa.
Right, well, it's a mechanics of both molecules and of pressure. Most of the wells are actually under pressure. They're considered artesian, or not, I'm sorry, not artesian. They're confined. They're considered confined. So, there is a lens of clay or some type of aquitard that is above the top of that well. Water gets pushed into the aquifer, and then actually the pressure pushes up inside that well. So there's a cap, the water pressure is pushing up on that. If you drill a well, that allows the water to come up into the well. And so the molecule, when you turn on your faucet, the molecule of water that actually falls into your sink was rain 50, 100, 5,000 years ago. Depends on where you are located. However, if it rains today and one of the local creeks gets a lot of water in it and actually pushes water down into the aquifer, it pushes down over here, causing a pressure which comes up into your well over here. So you can see the effect of the recharge almost instantaneously as the pressure in that well comes up. However, that individual water drop is still going to take several hundred years to actually make it all the way down through the system. So, but in general, yes, not all the recharge is coming from the Palmer Divide, but the general slope of the water is coming from the Palmer Divide. So recharge is going to occur anywhere where there's standing water or there are streams or anywhere where that aquifer is outcropped. So in the Denver, 7 wells, that was a slight decline of about 0.3 feet from one year to the next. And then 0.3. So yeah, just 1/3 of a foot. The Arapahoe, 9 wells, that was a decline of 2 feet, I'm sorry, 0.2 feet. And then in Laramie Fox Hills, there's 5 wells, and that was actually a rise of about 0.8 feet. So all of these, plus or minus 2 feet annually from year to year is really nothing to worry about or be concerned at this point. It's hard to say, the rises could have been because of all of the rain.
Or the base that you used a year ago.
Right, it's all going to change, annually and seasonally, so the longer we have a record, the more we can actually kind of fine tune this. So I think probably more importantly is that in 2004, 2005, the USGS did a separate study of groundwater quality in the Denver Basin as a whole. And we sampled several wells, and as a part of that water quality sampling, we actually take groundwater level measurements. So 10 years ago, we were in Elbert County taking water level measurements. And that is table 1. So, we basically take the water level we had 10 years ago to the one that I took in April of 2015, and we can see that in the Upper Dawson, out of the 3 wells, there was 0 change whatsoever. So a couple of wells that were just slightly up, a couple that were slightly down. The year-to-year change averages out to be no change at all over the 10-year period. For the Lower Dawson, there were 3 other wells as well that actually showed an increase of 0.7 feet. The Denver, there were only 2 wells. This is kind of mixed. There was a total decline on average of 3 feet, but one of those wells showed 0 change and one showed a decline of about 6 feet. So when average out, they get to 3. I don't know if one of those wells is representative of what's really going on, or if in 2 different areas we have 2 different responses and they're accurate overall. In the Arapahoe, there were 3 wells that showed a decline, an average decline of 0.3 feet per year. And in the Laramie Fox
Those wells
Hills,
are pretty consistent.
right. Yeah, just about 2 of them. Yeah, well, yeah, just 2 of them were about 0. Yeah, and then one had a slight decline of about a foot. And then I only had 1 well in the Laramie Fox Hills, and that showed an average decline per year of about 0.6 feet per year. You can see over the 10-year period, the averages of decline per feet per year is about the same as what I saw last year, give or take. There's no drastic changes one way or the other.
Brett, on the Denver wells, number 13 shows a change in water level, decline of 62 feet. 15 was decline of 93 feet.
Denver
05, 135 feet. That's rather alarming, isn't it?
oh, that's over a 10-year period.
Okay.
Right, so when you average it out.
Even still, though, could that be due to an irrigation system that's just let to run?
It could be, and a lot of this is due to location as well. The wells out by Agate, there's not a lot of production, there's not a lot of use, water levels are relatively consistent. You get into the northwestern part of the county where there's high density, high use, you're getting closer to the metropolitan area, you're going to see a larger change and a lot more drawdown in those individual wells.
Yeah, I just
So not actually mapping each individual one out and doing overall comparisons, it's kind of hard to say at this point.
I'm just noticing that one in particular that had a per annum that dropped over 7 feet. It's just outside of town here on Comanche Creek. So is it possible there's a problem with irrigation out there that, I don't know, what would be the next step?
It's hard to say at this point. I mean, analysis like this is something that's going to come at the end of the 3 years when I actually sit down and start crunching all the data and looking at it,
Okay.
trying to figure out, what are the potential causes? Are there any similarities? Is it all of the decline is in one given part of the county? Is it sporadic? Is it that, and in certain areas, typically a homeowner goes to the state and says, I want to drill a well. And the state says, oh, well, your house sits on the Denver aquifer, therefore you can just drill a shallow well down in the Denver aquifer. However, if they show up and say, oh, I want to have a well, but I also want to irrigate my lawn and I want to have a whole bunch of horses and cattle, sometimes the state will say, well, we don't want you using the top aquifer, we want you to go one deeper. And so in certain cases, they could actually be in a lower aquifer that could also at the same time be in the same aquifer nearby a municipal well. And so there's also the possibility of influence just on, on that case. And sadly, I wasn't there 10 years ago when they collected that sample, so I don't know, how accurate the water level measurement was at that given time, if there was nearby pumping. The water level at that point really wasn't their primary focus. Their primary focus was collecting the water quality sample. But the third set of data is actually the comparison with the water levels reported by the drillers.
The drilling logs?
The drilling logs, right. And this is that table 2, I think? Did I not include that?
Not 3. Yeah, 2 is the historical.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, reported by the drillers. And those numbers are historically questionable. And if you look at the drillers' reports, the driller says, oh, it's 100 feet to water. Well, is it 101? Is it 102? And if you look at them as a whole, they're all 100, 110, 115. Usually they're reported to the tens of a foot. You're lucky if you can find one that'll actually round it off to the 5s. But normally they're individual, you know, okay, that's 100 feet. Sometimes it's, well, that's where I hit the water. Sometimes that's where the well was after he left, but it still hadn't been conditioned. And so, you know, those are usually kind of drastic, and I know quite a few drillers, one of them that used to just throw a rock and time it and go 1, 2, 3, and he had a little index card. That, you know, when he heard the plop, he's like, okay, that was all right, and you can estimate a lot of them as they're pulling the pipe. They're just, you know, there goes 10 feet of pipe, there goes 20 feet of pipe, they're, oh, it's wet, yeah, so that's 30 feet, and that's how they measure the water level. And, you know, the pump guy's gonna show up and take a much more accurate reading, and that's what's gonna carry, but that normally doesn't get reported, that just gets into his notes, and he figures out what it's at.
For some of this data, I mean, here's one from 1961, you know, that would really be terrific if we knew that was sound data, from a comparison point of view, you know.
Right.
50 years ago, that'd be great, but you're saying we have no idea what was happening there on that well in 1961.
Right, and yeah, there are some that, yeah, have, you know, 115 foot of increase, and there are some that have 80 foot decline. So it's like, all right, well, one is right, one is not, maybe they're both wrong, but when you start doing the averages statistically, and it kind of wash out, and you end up with, you know, small changes overall.
Just as a, you know, for me and for everybody else's benefit, what is the long-term objective, and what might we expect at the end of the third year when you really do start punching the numbers and you start getting information, you know, by location, or at least by zones, or northwest corner, or, you know, whatever. So what kind of data and insights might we expect as a result of this study at the end of the 3-year period? Is that a fair question?
Yeah, normally, I would expect to be able to give you an answer. However, because last year was so wet, water levels typically, what I see, especially in Douglas County and along the South Platte River, June and July, water levels are declining. And they're usually declining relatively quickly as everybody's pumping and water levels, water is being used for irrigation and everything else. And then they start coming back up, you know, the end of the summer, into the fall. Last year, the water levels in June here in Elbert County were higher than they were in February. I've never seen that before. Now, maybe it's just you're far enough out from the metropolitan areas, and my studies have always been in metropolitan areas that I haven't seen it, but it's always been going on. But at this point, I'm really not sure. We'll have to wait a whole nother year to sit back and actually start getting better statistics to see what was in the influence of last year, what year, and what is actually.
So the longer we do this, the more of an average and cycle that we can collect, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, 20 years, obviously the more valuable the data becomes and more accurate.
Right, correct. And from what I'm seeing for the study that's been going on over in Douglas County is we had a couple of years where it was really dry and there were early springs, there was a lot of water use and water levels were declining. There have been some changes on water usage and other things that have gone on over there in that area, and the last couple of years, water levels have actually kind of come up or bounced around. And so some of it seems to be tied to water use, which also seems to be tied to the climate, which seems to be tied to just more of a longer cycle than an annual cycle. And so in order to get a better idea, I think we're going to need, 3 to 4 years. However, that first year was really wet. So we might need to add one more onto the other end to see, what's going to be the
It'd be great if we had 10,000 years of data.
So, but one of the other things, the state has been monitoring water levels in the county. Actually, we do it all over the Denver Basin. They've been doing it for years. Typically, theirs are just annual. And some of the water levels that are in their report, they actually just call up the local municipal water agency, say, we need a water level from your well. So the guy will go out and he'll take a water level measurement. Sometimes it's accurate, sometimes the well hasn't been pumped, other times it's in the middle of pumping. Other times, they shut the pump off, he smokes a cigarette, says, okay, it's been 5 minutes, takes a water level measurement, and doesn't really check to see, if it's recovered or not. But they have a data set that's actually extended for quite a few years as well.
And where's that at? Where can we get that at?
The DWR website, they actually have a tab at the top that calls, asks for water levels, I think it is. I believe there's reference in the report to that data, or at least where it's located.
One last question though. But, one of the things that we talk about in the county is the Elbert County, our water, and the impact that to our water from additional homes, rooftops, and municipal wells, and et cetera. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to me like it was 2012, maybe it was 10. The last time I saw a report from the USGS, that of all the water taken out of the Denver Basin in that particular year, only 4% of that water was used in Elder County. The conclusion to that, or the flip side of that, is that 96% of the water used in this Denver basin is being drawn outside the county boundaries. Is that an accurate statement?
That's also in the report. I can't quote the number specifically because I don't have it in front of me, but yeah, that would have been the report published in 2010, which would have been, I think, 2005, 2006 data. So we're, we have to actually wait. Everybody reports their numbers. We go to the different agencies, compile it. It's actually a nationwide report. And then sometimes locally they break it down into either state or by region. But there should be another one of those coming out in the next couple of years. And I think either the end of this year or sometime early next year. It should definitely be out by the time this report is published, in which case we'll be able to update that data, because I know there's been a lot of growth over in Douglas County and in Arapahoe County. But most of Arapahoe is actually getting their water from outside sources. They're buying surface water rights from farmers along the South Platte and elsewhere. So even though there's a lot of growth over there, it's going to be hard to say what their actual draw out of the groundwater is going to be. I know.
But Monuments put in some big wells.
So it'll be interesting to see, but that's still, sadly, we're a little behind on getting the data and then actually getting it out to be published.
Good.
Just one comment. The grant we received, we participate in with CWCB, runs through next calendar year.
The monitoring will continue through February of 2018. That will be the last round of water level measurements. Right. And then I think the grant actually goes through September, which gives us a little bit of time to actually, once we collect that last measurement, to do all the data analysis, to get the report and actually get it ready for publication.
Of 2018. Right.
And then the grant process typically takes about a year. From the day that you sit down and say, oh, let's do this, you have to go to one of the round tables. You have to actually get it on the agenda. Then they vote on it, and then it has to sit back and then goes to the state level for their vote. But then they only vote, I think, once or twice a year.
I may be requesting that you come up to the South Platte Roundtable and give a presentation. They like to see the fruits of their labor, the grants and so forth. So as we approach the time to re-up the grant, I might be calling you to do that. Otherwise, though, lacking that participation, you and I have had this discussion before, that ballparking it may be a budget item of the counties lacking a grant approval of about $9,000 a year to have this going on into the future with the existing, now that the network is set up.
Right. I'm sorry, I can't remember who I had that conversation with. The 9,000 was about what I'm spending over in Douglas County, and that is actually reduced scope. So we're only monitoring water levels out there 3 times a year. That's more or less just, that's monitoring half of the network. It's basically maintaining the transducers that we have installed, and then annual water levels just in February. I'm assuming
so it's not as thorough as this.
It's not as thorough.
We're going to talk a little bit at 11 o'clock about, I believe, some of the grant issues. And one of the concerns, of course, is that the severance tax income to the state has been reduced by about 40% this coming year. Right. So money's getting tight and grants are getting harder to get. So, no time like the present to start planning for the futures.
And I believe I mentioned it, the U.S. Geological Survey has modified, at least in Colorado, we've modified our procedures for matching funds. I think, initially we threw in, I think, 35–40% of the project. I think going forward in the future, we'll only be able to offer about 15%. But we have multiple options that we can deal with. We can reduce the frequency of the monitoring. And after 3 years, we have a couple of transducers in a while, you get a good idea of what that cycle is, what the range is from the highest water levels to the lowest water levels. At that point, you could probably scale back and just do high water levels in February, keep the transducers in the ground, maybe buy 1 or 2 more transducers to put in a couple of key points. You can actually reduce the frequency at that point.
We've only got a couple of transducers out of the 44 we're doing right now.
Out of the 44, 43, 42, we've lost 3 in the last month.
Well,
yeah. There's 5 transducers.
5.
Right.
And if you need help finding volunteers to participate in the program? Just let us know.
The only, at this point,
2 years behind.
yeah, the biggest loss, I think, was Sun Country Estates. I lost the one and only well that was up there. And unfortunately, at this point in time, I don't have a lot of money in the budget. It's, right now, I'm just in, monitoring mode. So I don't have a lot of money to go knocking on doors and asking people all over again, so.
You'll have to be pretty close to the other one in order to maintain some kind of continuity of the data.
It doesn't necessarily have to be. I can take some high precision GPS measurements to get to, and if I can convince the owner to let me back on one more time, I can get 2 instantaneous readings.
That's an important area. Looking
So-
up at that.
So I'm hoping to, if not at the end of this week, probably next round, actually have a little bit of time left over to be able to knock on a few doors and approach, I think it's Rattlesnake as a fire station right out there. So,
Milestone number 2, I think. is what it's
so
called.
hopefully they have a well that can be
Right there's
accessed.
the entrance.
So,
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much for coming out.
Yeah.
all right, so then, I guess I was talking with Bob Ware.
Uh-huh.
I guess overall, I think I'm going to be working with the Water Advisory Committee in the next couple of months to actually prepare a budget, to at least get you guys a ballpark figure of what we're looking for monitoring, so.
Maybe that's what they're gonna talk to us today.
so,
Sounds like a plan.
all right.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Red.
Thank you.
Okay, if we copy this stuff and make it available? We copy this, we'll do top secret about this. Huh? Yeah.
Can we close that?
Okay, we're going to move on to new business now. Public comment may be provided for items as deemed appropriate. Starting with a discussion, is Mr. Jim Carlson here? Okay. Regarding renewal of lease of Elizabeth in the Pines Park Association, Representative Jim Carlson. I guess I'll let you explain what this is all about.
Yeah, Jim Carlson, 4576 Park Lane, Elizabeth. With me is Chuck Etherington. I'm the president pro tem, since our president-elect, and vice president. Chuck is our secretary treasurer. We've got just some simple handouts for the commissioners, basically locating what we're talking about. This is a 30-acre county-owned piece of property south of 86 and west of Elizabeth, east of Elizabeth. I get myself confused here. Basically, we're right across, we're just south of 86, across from Casey Jones Park. This all started roughly 20 years ago when Road and Bridge was going to do some clearing of trees along the right-of-way. And they decided that, there were some nice specimens in there, so let's let the citizens dig trees. That was certainly an excellent idea. Unfortunately, none of the residents knew about it. So people were showing up from Aurora, spade in hand, and there were some grumpy looks there, particularly when the spade trucks moved in. Open to the public, tree movers are public, so he brought his trucks and was digging trees, and even though the right-of-way was here, that's a better looking tree, so I'm gonna get that one. And then there was another incident where it was actually on one of the homeowner's property. Well, no fence, nice tree, very much rock. So as concerned citizens, we thought we needed to do something about this. So we approached the county about some means of a little more local control over the acreage. Essentially, didn't want to put up swing sets or anything, but we did want to have some control over what was going on. You know, road and bridge gonna prune again, okay, hopefully they'll tell us, we can inform everybody, this is what's going on. As part of our nominal control, we agreed to implement a weed management program. Due to the size of our organization, our weed management program is every couple of years or so, we'll get some hot dogs, volunteers will show up, and we'll walk the property and dig up any weeds we find. We do have, Chuck arranged for a walkthrough by, who is it, Chuck?
It's,
Oh,
Derek Clemens.
yeah, Derek Clemens, District Conservationist from the Natural Resources Conservation Service. And his report, and we can make that available if you wish to have some copies, but basically, there are a nominal amount of weeds in the park. Over a 20-year period, he said this is in excellent shape. He said he would know out of a 30-acre tract, he would expect to see about 4 or 5 acres that, you know, had some weed impact. He said what you've got is about 4/10 of an acre in total. So we kind of pat ourselves on the back. The lease was written for a 20-year period. It is expiring at the end of this year, and so we are before you today is to seek a renewal of that lease. Chuck, do you have any words?
No, I don't have anything to add to that. We are, I don't know if you have copies of the, Wade drafted a new lease, and I don't know if you
Well, I've showed them the old lease.
Okay.
And showed them the provisions. And really it's kind of a board decision at this point in how to proceed. 20 years is a fairly substantial amount of time, so I wanted to just allow you guys to make a presentation. There may be other questions that they have, and then we can follow up. I did point out one of the things that we have now that we didn't have under the lease itself talked about a $600,000 liability policy. And our limits, our lower level limits are higher than that now, so we had that discussion. So that's really where it's at. I provided the old lease to the commissioners, and it's in the discussion process.
Okay.
And I actually visited a beautiful property.
Yeah,
It's about 2 miles long and football and half wide. And
my understanding is it's one of 2 or 3 open spaces that the county has within residential areas, and it is the largest. I think the next largest, as I recall, was about 10 acres up in on the hill. But anyway, it's the larger of the properties.
now it's owned by the county.
Yeah.
It's open space, so that's a given. I guess one of the questions that I'll ask is, what could happen in a 20-year period or 10 or whatever period of time, you know, do this for? What could happen in that time, from the county's perspective and or from the homeowners association's perspective, that could or would change any conditions that either party might be wanting to have happen at that time? If we ever develop, make a park out of it, you guys, you know, it can't be sold for obviously development, it's an open space. Is there an escape clause that either of the 2 parties would have, should something ever happen?
In as I recall, in the old lease, there really is no provision for that other than just, violation or breaking the lease.
That's right.
You folks have more attorneys than we do. One, as far as what might, well, let me back up. You mentioned homeowners association. This is not a homeowners association. It is just a member association. You pay some dues, you make a donation, you're a member. You might be a member this year, maybe not next year. It's just a group of concerned residents in the area looking to maintain the open space. What might happen, or what might the county do? One of the rumors at the time that we put this together was that the county was going, or Road and Bridge was going to put a little depot on the west end.
Put a what?
A little depot of some sort. Snow plows, maintainers, salt building, because it's, it's a quarter mile off 86. From Road and Bridge's perspective, yeah, sounds like a good location. Rumor or not, that was kind of one of the considerations that, if that happens, we as lessees, having the lease, would be informed of that, and we could have our discussion.
You kind of answered one of my questions, where I was going to ask you, why do you need a lease to begin with? It's an open space, it's really fairly well protected from any kind of change in development. Rumor or not, you partially answered that question.
Yeah.
So.
And also, like I say, Road and Bridge's good intentions of thinning the trees along the right of way just kind of got out of hand. So again, from our perspective.
7 years ago, 20 years ago, whatever it was, long time ago.
Actually, 20 years and 8 months and 14 days.
But the trees are doing well right now.
Yes, they are. So again, the whole intent was to provide us with a little bit more control over what's going on in the area, or at least a vehicle to where we can do what the
And
county
from a
might
property
want.
value point of view, you want to know what, you want some predictability about
Right.
that area.
Yeah. Do we foresee playgrounds? No. Swimming pool? No. Dirt bike track? No. Unless, of course, the majority decides they want to do that. But
Well, you can't do it,
just
just because you have a lease on, you can't go out and develop and doing those things either, obviously.
Right.
And it's being maintained as a county park, so it's, there's signage around it that says,
No campfires.
Right.
No campfires, no motor vehicles. The lease addresses that except for maintenance vehicles.
And there's really not, I didn't even see any trails on it, I mean, in terms of going out and hiking. I'd rather see maybe a couple of walking trails through.
There's a couple walking
Is
trails.
there?
Yeah.
There must have.
Actually, they were left over from literally about 30 years ago. Some kids living on one end of the park, and their schoolmates on the other part. And so just this bicycle path, which wore down the grass, which eroded, and so in some spots you got a...
Do people ride horses?
Yes. Yeah, horseback riding, cross-country skiing, bicycle rides, the occasional dirt bike
that sneaks in.
hollered at.
And, or, the kids go over there and play paintball, do paintball wars and stuff over there.
No fireworks.
No fireworks.
No fireworks.
Is Elizabeth in the Pines Park Association, it says it's a Colorado nonprofit corporation, is it still in good standing? That
Yes, I got the letter of good standing if you'd like to see it.
Well, communicate those things to the county attorney and
We did talk about that on the phone.
yeah. And then when it comes up for actual consideration, then we'll have a whole package of your indemnification. And basically the question is, are there any sort of covenants or bylaws that govern the use of the land? All those details would be important. I appreciate you coming out and explaining this to us. And looks like a very nice amenity in your community.
How active is your association? Is it fairly active involvement, people, funding? Is it?
No. It's not a dead organization like many HOAs. We do hold the occasional meeting. We issue newsletters, usually in conjunction with solicitation of donations. But on the last couple of newsletters that went out, the focus was more on encouraging people to spray trees for the beetle kill, because there is a challenge in the area. So the bulk of those communications to the 85 residents focus more on taking care of your trees. And oh, by the way, we're getting a little low on funds. Donations would be appreciated. But the only thing that we have in expenses is the insurance.
Is there, because the lease has language about maintenance, but in discussing that, you don't have any maintenance equipment, you don't have a mower or anything like that. Has mowing of the property ever been discussed by the association? Is there mixed feelings on that? I know that it seems like when I've driven by it, and it's natural grass, so it's natural grass with trees, but there's really no maintenance that's taking place. And I don't know if that was something that the association had discussed or not.
Some of the earlier discussions, many years ago, I think somebody brought that up, but the general consensus at the time was it's open space. It's a natural area. Let it be. So, no, mowing has not been brought up, other than by Derek, our weed person. He said that from his perspective, from a fire management or fire prevention, he would recommend that it be periodically mowed or run some cattle on it. My personal opinion is, of the two, it would probably be easier to mow it than to let a rancher run 20 head on it for 6 weeks. He'd have to fence it in. He'd have to either truck in water, pump the well, which is a whole other issue. So, mowing might be a considered option, but again, like I say, the folks that walk the area regard it as a natural area. Where do we go?
Just communicate the rest of that information immediately, and then we'll post this on a future agenda. Execution of the lease.
Okay, when might that be? Because we're getting to where...
I understand this expires.
This expires in December,
Yeah.
so we would only have November, December meeting to address this issue.
It has the potential to be on the next meeting.
Okay. All right, and at that time, it would be, we would anticipate either a yay or an nay?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There was no decision contemplated for you to deal with the insurance, proof of insurance, and other requirements. We have all that in front of us. We should be able to proceed with that in a future meeting.
All right.
I guess one other item that occurs to me is whether or not and there's not a lot of timber on this plot of land.
No.
Compared to the lots. Has there been fire mitigating the lower limbs and dead wood collected and so forth?
No. again, maintaining it as a natural area. No, we have not done it.
It was surprising. That's pretty good.
Yeah, there has been, occasionally, dead branches and stuff, which I think the kids actually pull down those that they can reach, because you can find a little, it's either kids building forts, for their paintball, or a horseback rider doing some jumping, which.
Or not watching where they're going.
Yeah, but at least they pull the branches down, put them in a pot.
Jim, Chuck, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And Wade, you'll get back to Chuck with.
Chuck has my
what you need.
email and I think you can send me the documents too.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Moving on to item B, resolution certifying costs of prosecuting crimes alleged to have been committed by persons in the custody of the Colorado Department of Corrections. You want to talk about this one? It's a nickel of money. Am I correct in adding these two numbers together, the 105 and the 70?
Correct.
Yeah, so it's $175 and change, 81 cents, I think.
Yeah, restitution is just a huge bucket of cash for us.
We are going to be reimbursed $175.81 by the Department of Corrections.
Actually, the district attorney.
Our district attorney,
Oh.
we don't actually get it.
We don't even get that.
I can explain it real quickly. By statute, and it's 1618-1013, it says that the Department of Corrections shall reimburse counties for the cost of prosecuting any crime alleged to have been committed by a person in the custody of the Department of Corrections, for costs that are not otherwise paid by the state. And the statute also provides that the Board of County Commissioners in each county has to certify the cost. So what happened was, and we do this every year, they provided Lenny Merriam, who's a CPA with the Department of Corrections Controller's Office, provided a breakdown of the hours and the time and the billing invoices for each county, and he came up with $175.81.
Okay. Chair moves to approve and adopt Resolution 16-2 to determine a resolution certifying costs of prosecuting crimes alleged to have been committed by persons in the custody of the Colorado Department of Corrections.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item C, public hearing of the Quail Hills rezone request, RZ-16-0007.
I'm going to get up and just introduce him, yeah. Kyle Fenner, Director of Community and Development Services. Good morning, Commissioners. This will actually be a single hearing, and we're going to hear them together. They're intricately linked. One can't happen without the other. We like it that way, because you wouldn't want one to prevail if the other didn't also succeed.
Okay, and in that case, allow me to also introduce a public hearing on the Quail Hills Minor Residential Development, MD-16-0008, both to be heard simultaneously.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Proceed.
And I'd like to introduce you to Ethan Wattell. He is the appointed planner. He represents Baseline, and we've been working closely with him. Ethan, how about it?
Where would you like me to stand?
Anywhere you want.
Here.
That's good.
Yeah. Good morning, Commissioners. Nice to see you two again. Commissioner Wilcox, nice to meet you. Haven't had a hearing with you yet. As Kyle mentioned, I'm here to present two cases, a rezoning and a minor residential development that are linked. The development can't happen without the rezoning occurring. The applicant and landowner is AMK Construction LLC, is represented by C.J. Hurst of Tahoe Consulting LLC. And the summary of the request is the two actions for the rezoning and the MRD, minor residential development. The zone change request is from the A Agricultural District to the AR Agriculture Residential Zone District. And that rezoning request includes to allow for the MRD request, which is a proposal for a 7-lot minor subdivision. Lots ranging in size from 10 to 12 acres. Just I'll go over some quick data on the site. It's an 81 and change acre parcel of land. located along County Road 5 and north of County Road 154, which is also signed as Gamble Oaks Drive, 1/2 mile south of Hilltop Road along County Road 5. There's an existing transmission line owned by IREA that cuts through the site. Topography is generally flat, a little bit of rolling hills. No floodplain. Closest floodplain is 600 feet to the north. The existing zoning is A, agriculture, which allows for a minimum lot size of 35 acres. Proposed zoning, AR, allows for a minimum lot size of 10 acres. Just to give you an overview of the surrounding lots, I'm going to look at this map while I do that. So, to the north is agricultural land, it's zoned agricultural and it's agricultural and residential use. It's unplatted. To the east, I'll say the northeast, is agricultural zone land, unplatted. To the southeast is the Gamble Oaks subdivision. That's zoned PUD, and that has a number of lots ranging in size from 1.5 acres to 2 acres, and they also have some common open space. To the south is Ponderosa Park Estates, excuse me. That's zoned RA2 and R1, and that allows those lots in there generally 2 to 2 3/4 acres in size. To the southwest, directly across the site, is agriculturally zoned land, unplatted, and then you see to the northwest is the Severson minor development, which is zoned RA1, and that minor development has 3 lots, ranging in size from 4.5 to 5 acres. So here's just an overview of the site. To the north is Hilltop Road. The site is denoted in red. The western boundary of the site is County Road 5, and the southern boundary is County Road 154. You can get an overall view of the Ponderosa Park Estates located to the south, and Gamble Oaks located to the southeast. Again, just the zoom in there is a little bit more of a close-in look at the site. It's relatively open, with a few sparse trees on the southern portion of the site. This is the rezoning exhibit. This is a conceptual view of the proposed 7 lots. With the street, north on this, excuse me, is to the right. So on the top of this is the west, and you have County Road 5. On the south side is County Road 154, existing roads. The developer proposes a new 60-foot wide right-of-way for what's called Sage Circle. In some of the documents in your packet, you may have seen it with other names. As the application progressed through the process, the fire department and the mapper indicated that the original name they chose was taken. So Sage Circle is an approved road name. This case goes back to about fall and winter of 2015 is when pre-application meetings were held. The community meeting was held in December of 2015. There were 18 attendees listed on the sign-in sheet. The formal submittal occurred in March. This is one of the first cases that, when Baseline came on, that we started reviewing from the beginning. It wasn't an old case that had been submitted. So, Planning Commission heard this on September 20th. And Board of County Commissioners were here today, October 12th. This did go through 2 referral periods of 35 days each, and they made a 3rd and final submittal, which is what you have before you to review. From here on out, I'm going to split the presentation into the rezoning and the plat. So I'm going to start with the rezoning request from A to agricultural residential. So in the zoning regulations, there are several criteria listed for how to evaluate a request for a rezoning. There's, first of all, some general considerations for every application. First of that is the application suitable for the community area in which it is proposed? And it goes through a list of items. Density is the first one, and the proposal for AR zoning does allow for agricultural uses to remain alongside residential uses. That's defined in the intent of the AR zone district. And these minimum 10-acre lots would be they'd be the largest platted lots in the area. There are some unplatted pieces of land nearby still, but as I pointed out, there's the Ponderosa Park Estates, Severson minor development, and Gamble Oaks, which all have smaller lot sizes, which feeds into lot size on number 2. The minimum lot size in AR is 10 acres. Perimeter lots are really applicable here. The existing platted lots are all across from existing roads. Population, 7 lots, so that population increase for 7 lots is relatively minor. Water use is the next in the list. They do have decreed water rights, and there's a case listed there to drill. They would propose 7 individual wells, 1 on each lot. And the Division of Water Resources did review each submittal in this and provide comment letters which are in your packet. And they've stated that the proposed water source is adequate. With 10-acre lots, they're allowed to have septic and wells on the same lot, so the proposed sanitation is septic systems on site. Open space. Lots or developments of this size aren't required to dedicate actual land for open space, but they would be required to dedicate cash in lieu of that open space land. And there's a formula based on the valuation of the land, which has been added as a condition of approval to pay for that open space cash in lieu. And the next item is agricultural lands. In the AR zone district, the intent is to allow areas of open space, non-commercial farming, ranching, agriculture-related uses, and low-density residential subdivisions. So there would still be a preservation of agricultural uses on those 10-acre lots. The zoning regulations continue to discuss what's applicable for every application, and that's does the community area in which the application is proposed have the resources to support it. We've got schools, roads, law enforcement, animal control, fire protection, ambulance services, library services, and social services. This application is in a relatively built-out portion of the county. It does have a nice road network accessible to it. Law enforcement will be provided by the county, and it's in the Elizabeth Fire Protection District. School district, Elizabeth School District was a referral agency, and they did have comments on, they have a standard fee that gets paid based on the number of lots, and that's also a condition of approval that those get paid. Moving on through the zoning regulations, there is criteria on whether the application complies with the Upper County Master Plan. This would fall under the county master plan's housing section, which doesn't have too much to say about development size. It's more focused. The requirements come in when you have larger developments, but it does talk about dedication of cash in lieu of open space for development of this size, and talks about densities on when water and sewer are allowed. So, as I stated, well and septic on 10-acre lots is what is proposed and what does conform to the master plan. I'll say it again, that the proposed zoning does allow for larger lots than most of the surrounding existing lots, besides those that are unplatted still. Gamble Oaks and Ponderosa Parks have existing smaller platted lots, and they're directly adjacent. 2 in this list is whether the proposed rezoning is compatible with surrounding land uses. I went through the land uses before, so the zoning around there is, I'll just go through the minimum lot areas that are allowed in each of those zone districts. So there's some nearby A zone land that allows for 35-acre minimum lot size. RA1 allows for a minimum lot size of 5 acres. RA2 is 2.5 acres. R1 is 1 acre. So all those are directly around the site and nearby. So the proposed zone district of AR allows for 10-acre minimum lot size, which is still substantially larger than the other existing zone districts around this, besides the A unplatted land. 3 is whether the proposed rezoning would adversely impact the provision of public services. Based on the comments from the referral agencies, the utilities, the special districts that service the site, there were no indications from anybody that there would be an inability to provide proper service to the site. 4 is whether the proposed rezoning would adversely impact the environment. Again, based on our review and the referral agency, there's no indication that that would happen. 5 is whether the proposed rezoning would create traffic congestion. So 7 new lots. The applicant did submit a letter prepared by a traffic engineer that stated this is in general, on average, 72 trips would be added to the road network based on 6 new lots. So 7 lots would generate 72 trips per day over the entire length of the day, in and out in the morning, errands during the day, in and out, for work in the afternoon. County Road 5 and County Road 154 are classified as local roads in the Westover County Transportation Master Plan, and they are built out to their local road standard. 6 is whether the proposed rezoning will not otherwise be detrimental to the health, safety, and welfare of present or future inhabitants. The proposal is occurring in an area that already has adequate access to public services, and no issues were identified as being detrimental to the health, safety, and welfare of the residents. Moving on from the rezoning, I've got the minor residential development plat for the 7 lots on 81 acres. Here's an overview here. So this would be contingent on rezoning to AR for the 7-lot subdivision to be allowed. Just an overview on minor residential developments. In the subdivision regulations, it is technically an exemption from the regular subdivision process. And by that I mean the preliminary plat and final plat process, which is a longer process. But it still is technically a subdivision, but it's evolved from state statutes to allow you to review it in a single step. And they only allow for creation of between 1 and 7 parcels. Again, so here is a snapshot of the minor residential development plat that was prepared by the applicant's engineers and surveyors. Again, north is to the right. County Road 5 on the north, or on the west, but on the top. County Road 154 on the left or south. New Sage Circle, 60-foot wide right-of-way, which goes all the way across the site. You'll see that they provided a bulb for a cul-de-sac in the middle there. They intend to build the road just to that cul-de-sac, because that's all this development would need. But what we didn't want to happen was orphan the property to the east, which is still unplatted. So this would allow for a future road one day to be built all the way across the site. The applicant would only need half of that, but the right-of-way will be preserved so that we don't need to come get it from future landowners at a later date. So of the 7 lots, the smallest is 10.17 acres and the largest is 12.37. I mentioned that right-of-way dedication to the county, 60 feet for Sage Circle. Now, County Road 5 is an existing road, but the applicant's surveyors could not find proof of the actual dedication of that road. It is a section line road, so it exists under prescriptive use. But as we go through and do new plats in the area, it's been the policy, as I understand, to require the half of the road right-of-way that would be on this side of this property owner's side would be dedicated at the time of plat. So it'd be a 60 feet total right-of-way is what the county would require for that road. So 30 feet the applicant can be dedicated. And that's for County Road 5 and for County Road 154. So they're existing roads, probably have prescriptive rights since they are section line roads, but this just, you accept that right-of-way now and it solidifies it now. And as you go forward in future plats, that's a good policy to have too. Require that dedication to memorialize that acceptance of the right-of-way.
Also, beyond that one, this is something we talked about yesterday. Even though a dedication on the other half of the roads, those the right-of-ways are prescriptive, so therefore it doesn't matter. Is that correct? That's correct. Okay, so we don't have to worry about that other 30 feet becoming an issue later on.
If the adjacent property across the street were developed in plat, you could ask for that 30 feet there, but on this plat, since this applicant only owns that half of the road per se, we can only ask for him to give the land that he owns.
Right.
This is right.
Right.
That 30 feet, it just documents that 30 feet has been dedicated to the road.
And the other side remains unplatted, so the odds are that'll come into plat someday in the future, and then we gain that second 30 feet.
All right, thank you.
Keeps it well mapped out on paper and easy to track.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you. In cash in lieu of open space dedication, as I mentioned, because it is under 8 lots, there's no requirement to dedicate an actual piece of land as open space. That's in the county code. And the MRD plat, minor residential development plat, the application and the submittals, they met all the submittal requirements, they had proof of water ownership and the land dedication, as I mentioned. And the plat was reviewed by myself, planner, and engineers and surveyors at baseline, and all the referral agencies and county agencies as well. So in summary, both the applications for the rezoning to AR and the minor residential development have been reviewed, as I said, by internal county and external agency. Both applications meet the county review criteria. And further, on September 20th, the Planning Commission held a hearing and unanimously recommended approval of both of these to you. I do have a recommendation for the rezone. The Planning Commission's recommendation was to approve with conditions, standard conditions. Removing the public hearing sign, rezoning will become effective until all fees are paid. Record action of all appropriate documentation within 180 days and adopt the findings. And further recommendation on the plat, similar conditioned, some standard conditions here based on the referral findings. Applicant in the Elizabeth School District shall comply with their resolution to, before recordation of the plat, to get any fees paid. Fire District has comments to all roads shall be constructed on an approved all-weather surface and shall meet county road standards. Sage Circle's an approved name. And she has some, the fire department has some comments on just driveway placement and address placement and mapping out the property so they know they can adequately respond. And Elizabeth Fire District gives some choices when it comes to fire protection on either providing a cistern or sprinkling or providing a cash in lieu fee. The applicant has chosen to pay $1,040 per new lot, or $6,240 to the fire district to go towards fire protection services, and that's between them and the fire district, but it is memorialized as a condition here. Again, the standard condition to remove the hearing sign. They'll pay the open space cash in lieu fee of $34,600 prior to recordation. And also, Stage Circle, the new road cutting through the site. Elbert County and the applicant will engage with Public Works to negotiate and sign a subdivision improvements agreement, and that's just to put up any collateral for the construction of that small stage circle and any other public improvements, and the applicant is working with Public Works on that already. And the plat shall comply with the submittal requirements in the code. They'll pay any impact fees as established by the county effective at the time this plat is approved. And the plat will not become effective until all fees are paid, conditions are met, and documents recorded within 180 days, and adopt these findings. With that, I'm available for questions and comments, and I believe the applicant and his representative are here as well. To say anything they'd like to say.
I have a real quick, and I think it's more for maybe our staff. This, I believe, is the first time since the bill was passed in the Colorado legislature for fire departments assessing fees for 1,040 acres. I'm not arguing that new law, I just wanted just for this going forward. So is that part of our approval conditions that we include that condition from the fire department? Is that how that works?
They're a referral agent, so as they provide their comments, that's one of the comments, then it shows up
But
as.
where's the mechanism and the duty to collect that 140?
Between the developer and the fire district.
But between them, it doesn't preclude our moving forward at all. Okay, and I just wanted, just for future reference, I kind of wanted to clarify that since it's the first time we've seen this implemented.
When the fire district responds to their referral comments, with that list of items I had there, at the end they say, we request these be considered as conditions of approval. So that is where that comes in. We have a good working relationship with the fire district, so we are, in effect, memorializing their requirement to get fees in this condition, but it is a.
So it is a condition of approval?
It is, in my recommended conditions of approval, that they make sure to pay that, but it doesn't get paid to the county.
Right.
It gets paid to the fire district.
Our involvement from this point forward, if that's approved, is we will make a, contact with the fire district to make sure they receive those fees. And if they don't, we'll notify you if they haven't met that condition.
Well,
And how we manage that in the department is that they don't have a signature block on a Mylar, and they don't have a signature block on a plat. With referral agencies that are special districts that we do have sort of those mutual relationships with, they give us a letter saying all of these things have been met. That letter then goes into that file, and that's a box we can check off that this condition has been met. So again, it's a negotiation. And going back to the fees, they have one of three choices, and in this case, Gambrel Oaks has a cistern, Coyote Hills has a cistern. These monies can go into improving the existing network that's already there. And that's what they do. With 7 lots, it's not cost effective for the developer to buy a $50,000
well, in this case, it's not
system.
really a condition of approval for this. The payment of is not a condition of approval for this approval for the board today, because it really is. It only is going to be collected on individual lots when those lots are developed, and that'll be a future permit or a future application.
Are you talking about the impact fees of the?
No, the 1,040 for the fire.
Actually, that's between the
That's between them and them.
district.
We don't care when they collect it. It's what they're saying in this is that we've agreed to bind ourselves to Resolution 99, whatever, 14. And that's a commitment, and we're just memorializing that they have made that commitment to the district. And that's really all we're doing. Okay.
Any other comments before we open for public comment? Okay, at this time, we're going to open this hearing to public comment regarding the rezone and the minor development application. Anyone? There's no public comment with regard to this. In that case, I believe that moves us on to a motion to approve. Pardon me? And I'm going to close the public hearing at this point. Chair moves.
One or two?
Just one motion.
One
resolution.
Okay.
And then we never read the resolution for this form.
So,
Did you want to make a motion?
Robert, I can say move to accept the resolutions as defined by the.
Or do you want to use these numbers here?
The RZ number and the MD number.
Yeah, include those, please.
Okay, so then we move to accept RZ 16-0007 and MD -16-0008 regarding the Quail Hills residential development. We accept both.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Did you write?
Yes.
Thank you.
And just out of curiosity, is the developer owner?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
That concludes the public hearing on rezone and minor development. Okay. Item E is receipt of the 2017 proposed budget. Ms. Raymond?
Morning, Commissioners, County Manager. An updated memo, changes that have been made. Also giving you an updated budget. Numbers are still moving around.
Okay.
But here's an updated budget, has some narratives in it. So we will be publishing our public notice for our public hearing on November 18th. With this also satisfies, as I mentioned at our last meeting, this also satisfies our statutory requirement to submit a draft budget for Board of County Commissioners by October 15th.
Okay, this latest draft is on the web.
And it's actually November 16th.
Where did it say?
18th.
Oh,
It's
November
16th.
16th.
What public hearing? Oh, the hearing, yeah. Okay. Anything else? Okay, thank you. Motion, please.
Yeah, can I say something? We just recently received the variance reports.
Yes, last night it should have.
Yeah, I did. Can I request we publish those on the website also? This current one and all future.
Yeah, we're in a position now with our servers and so forth that we can finish get that stuff up. You so desire.
Does that require a motion or the board?
Would it require a vote?
I don't believe so.
Just
If that's your,
just 30 seconds.
Any objections? Any objections to posting the variance
Anybody
report?
object to us posting more information?
Okay.
Still don't have it?
We've been receiving these variance reports for months, and since I got here. And they're good documents, they keep you in line with what's going on with the budget, and they're in depth. So that's why I thought this would be a perfect thing to publish it on the website so that the public can review it. So they've done a good job of keeping these up to date and accurate, so it's information that I think would be helpful.
And just for clarification for anybody that might not know exactly what we're talking about, variance reports.
Okay.
Variance report is, if, let's say we're in June, and we close out in June, the variance reports will show the budget, expenses and revenues projected on that budget for that particular area or department, and then how much is actually being spent through June. So theoretically, if 50% of the expenditures that were budgeted were spent in June, and you're exactly halfway through the year, you're exactly on budget. If you look at it and you say, wow, they've spent 75% of their budget and we're only through June, then you stop and take pause and find out why. Well, part of the reason might be there was some upfront costs, like in our general budget, we have to pay the district attorney and those kind of things, and insurance costs and workers' comp costs. So those might have been paid up front, and at the end, the percentage drops. So you have to kind of keep in mind how the whole process works. But it basically shows department by department and line item where and if that particular department as a county is staying on budget for the year. That's what they are. Is that right?
That's exactly right. And welcome any questions. When you folks start seeing these, please refer your questions to us, because hopefully we can answer any one you have.
Okay, back on topic.
Thank you.
Chair moves the BOCC acknowledge receipt of the 2017 proposed budget.
I'll second the motion.
Motion been made and seconded. Any discussion on the receipt of the proposed 2017 budget? All in favor, aye.
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 Motion passes.
Thank you. Just for clarification, it's November 16th that we are public hearing, and we will post in the papers for that public hearing, as required by statute.
Thank you. Item F, decision regarding engagement letter from outside counsel Nathan Dunn and Meyer, Mayor. Chair moves that BOCC execute engagement letter with outside counsel Nathan Dunn and Meyer dated October 4th, 2016 regarding employment matter.
I'll second the motion.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any comments?
I would make a comment if I could, please, to kind of explain why this is occurring. Andy Nathan, the attorney that we're looking at, he's skilled in employment law. That's the first reason. Steve Larson, the previous the attorney that we were working with, his primary emphasis was in land and water. So that's one reason we're switching. Next reason was Nathan Dunn and Mayer is supported and has been recommended in the past by our insurance carrier. Not so for Larson. So essentially we're going with we're looking at a provider that essentially is supported by our insurance carrier, CTSI. The next thing is if this case were to move into litigation, we would have to transition at that point to a different attorney based on CTSI, so this just eliminates that move at the time. So we hope that doesn't happen, but in the event it would, we're preparing for the worst case scenario. The other thing is that Nathan Dunn and Mayer is also very familiar with that process. They've worked with us in the past, so it's not like they're moving into a new area. They're familiar with our rules, our regulations, the policies, and everything else. So that's another point. And the last point, the hourly rates for Mr. Nathan are considerably less. Those are the reasons we're moving towards the other. And then I think one final comment is that we might all agree. So
Any comments, Commissioner Rowland?
None.
Okay. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. Chair moves,
Did you do a roll call vote?
Mr. Rowland?
Aye.
Mr. Wilcox?
Aye.
Mr. Ross?
aye. Okay. Here shortly, the board's going to move into executive session for attorney-client privilege communication with outside counsel. However, before I read us into this session, Chair moves to take a recess till 11 a.m.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Just a
quick break.
Just a quick break.
I would
Yeah.
suggest, though, and oftentimes we get a little distracted, let's make sure we stay to 10 minutes.
11
We've got
o'clock.
the water advisory committee, waiting.
And I'll read us into executive session.
Okay, so you want to take a short break, huh?
Till 11 a.m.
Okay.
All in favor? Aye.
I for the break, and one quick question. I for the break, and one quick question. Rick, how long do you think your presentation is going to take? It's going to take 10 minutes. Do we have any flexibility on the phone call with?
Yes, what time is it? 11. We're okay.
Can we come back to, I was just gonna say, can we come out from break at 11, let the WAC get their thing done in 10 or 15 minutes, and then do our phone call, and instead of making them stand around, it's just a thought. But
It's up to you. I think,
if we could get the phone call, I think that'd be, stand outside. Yeah.
kind of make, yeah, people stand outside. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay?
very well. Favor of a break?
Favor of a break, fine.
Oh, you're right, it's the work session. What's going on?
I've got to work on the upper Dawsonoccer will be used through individual wells to serve up to 6 residential lot rates of water. Okay, they're the upper
Landscaping and the
Dawsonoccer.
lighting that we're gonna do.
So, would you mind reading the motion to go into executive session? Or,
You can.
Chair hereby moves that the Elbert County Board of County Commissioners go into executive session with outside counsel Nathan Dunn, Mayor, for the purpose of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions or issues pursuant to section 24-6-4024B of the Colorado Revised Statute. Specifically, I move that the Board of County Commissioners go into executive session for the purposes of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions, including employment law issues and BOCC's legal obligations and options related to claims of potential litigation, all of which is done pursuant to CRS 24-6-4024B. Have a second, please.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Well, at this time, we need to clear the room for the executive session.
Ma'am, just so you know, what happened was the study session is the WAC thing, and it's not on the agenda, so we can't do it during the normal meeting. We have to do it.
Couldn't you recess the regular meeting, do the study session, then we can do the regular meeting?
That's what I suggested. I don't think it'll be too long.